people who were at the big box garden centers over the weekend, I would have clearly have lost count very quickly because there were a lot of people. And of course, that plays into what we're dealing with here. We're talking about some real estate trends that you need to know about for what you need to know for the next couple of weeks and months. It's been an interesting topic, so we brought in an expert, Realtor Rachael Cisz, joining us with some tips and whatnots, I said, and I don't know what the whatnots are because I think at the very least everything has been a what, as in what the heck is going on in the market. It's still all over the place, isn't it?
It is, and you know what? There's a lot of noise, I think, that consumers are hearing, so it gets very confusing. You're always wondering, I get asked, how are the rates? When's the market going to crash? Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market?
Yeah, I can't imagine if you are a buyer these days, it is overwhelming only because, and I've said this before, it's one thing to say you're going to make arguably one of the biggest purchases of your life, but you got to do it fast too.
Yeah. So it is a very competitive market for buyers, and that's why it's whether you're buying or selling, it's so important to work with a realtor.
Right.
I think a lot of people think, because the market's moving so quickly, maybe they can get an edge up by representing themselves, but you really need someone to guide you through the different levels of it.
All right, let's talk about the basics first, where we stand at spring 2025. You mentioned buyer's market, meaning, the seller's market. Let me get it right. Because meaning, if you want to be buying in this market, you better be prepared to shell out a lot of money. The houses are going quickly. You said from the moment they're listed to contract, the average is what now?
9 days to pending.
9 days. Is that a record?
Yeah, if it isn't, it should be.
Right.
But yeah, I think this year over last, we saw about a 12% increase in inventory. So even though that sounds small, I think we're starting to see more houses come on the market, but it's the demand is still exceeding the supply.
But let's throw a word into this that we have not before, and that's the dreaded T word, not taxes, but tariffs.
Yes.
Has that messed with buyers and sellers' heads for that matter?
So I think it's definitely impacted consumer confidence in general, but where I think we're going to see it play out the most is in new construction, because of course with the
tariffs,
tariffs,
pay more for the wood and the aluminum and all that stuff.
The materials, the cost to build, and most times those extra costs are going to be conveyed to the
Have the
buyer.
prices for new properties spiked already, or that you already seeing an uptick? Where are we?
We're right on the cusp of that, I think. I've been talking to a lot of builders and developers, and they have a little hesitancy to commit to anything right now because, the costs are going to increase, and they're just not sure yet.
It's an interesting point because if you are thinking about, okay, it's time to buy a house from me, you have to or you want to, you watch the 30-year mortgage numbers very carefully, but it's almost like that is taking a back burner approach to this in terms of other things that you have to look at.
Yeah. Well, I think for a while, buyers were kind of waiting on the sidelines, hoping that we were going to see that big dip in interest rates.
Which really didn't happen. It was a tiny dip, right?
I know.
Yeah.
But what I will say is, with the stock market being a little volatile right now.
A little? A little?
I'm trying to be kind.
A little.
We don't want to scare anyone, but with it being as volatile as it is, sometimes what we'll see is interest rates lower a little bit to help stabilize things. So that could be, the glass half full side to this.
Right. Okay, so let's say you're getting ready. Spring is normally the time that you go into overdrive because a lot of folks are sprucing up their houses to get them back on the market. If you need to do that, if you want to do that, where should we be investing our money?
Well, I would say first start with working with a realtor. I think oftentimes we live in our houses for so long, we know our houses so well, and we're our own worst enemies.
You need a fresh pair of eyes.
Yeah, you need an unbiased perspective to come in and say, here's what you can do to get the most bang for your buck, and don't drive yourself crazy spending money that you're really not going to see a return on. Right. But if I had to say just basics, decluttering the home, painting and changing fixtures goes a really long way.
Simple things. You do not have to spend a lot of money on that, as I have learned recently. All right, we got to go, but just give us the 3 top towns that are where the areas where are people looking the most these days? So
Redfin just released a report saying that the three of the top markets in Connecticut: Avon, Glastonbury, and Manchester. And what they used to qualify that was the most homes sold over list price.
Right.
But I think in general,
That's everywhere.
That's everywhere.
Yeah.
And it exemplifies a trend of Connecticut just having a really healthy housing market right now.
Totally
it's
fine
a great
with that.
place to live, and
I
it
got
shows.
no problem with that at all. We have lots of good information that we didn't even have time to get to. If you want a link, we will hook you up with Rachael at fox61.com. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Glad we can have you sit for a couple minutes and
Thank
not
you.
run around like crazy, which is what the market is doing these days. All right.